Our Across the Aisle segment tonight, signs have begun popping up along California highways that read, and I quote here, "Official sanctuary state. Felons, illegals, and MS-13 welcome." Now, the signs were put up as a prank, of course, but to call them fake wouldn't quite be accurate. With the start of the new year, California is now a sanctuary state, and if history is a guide, and it is, we should expect a flood of illegal immigrants and crime in the state of California as a result of this new policy. Is this the price liberals are willing to pay for diversity and for voters? With me now, professor and author of Obama's America, Ian Reifowitz. Ian, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Liz. Good to be back.
It's good to see you. All right, Ian, I want to show this sign again on the screen here. These have been popping up along California highways. They are essentially making fun of the fact that California is a sanctuary state. They're saying felons, illegals, and MS-13 welcome. But in all seriousness, let me ask you, isn't this what will happen under a policy in a state like California with a policy like being a sanctuary state? Won't it be essentially an invitation to felons, illegals, and, criminal syndicates like MS-13?
No, it won't. And I've got a lot of information to give you, so I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. First, let's use the example of the city of Tucson, which is a sanctuary city. There was an article written by Chuck Wexler recently, who's the executive director of the Police Executive Research Forum. He talked about a case in Tucson where an undocumented man saw a criminal about to trying to steal a car that had a bunch of kids in the back. The undocumented immigrant accosted the criminal, corralled him, apprehended him, and held on to him until the police came, then assisted the police in making sure that the criminal was charged and brought to justice. That's in a sanctuary city.
Right.
There's a reason why I mentioned Tucson specifically. The Tucson chief of police, Chris Magnus, recently wrote, and this is not me, this is police chiefs, all right? He wrote, "When crime victims and witnesses are unwilling to testify because they're afraid an immigration and customs enforcement agent will be waiting to arrest them at the courthouse doors, real criminals go unpunished. Such criminals become a threat to us all." The law in California means that people, when they go to court to testify, don't have to worry that an ICE agent is going to arrest them.
I've heard this argument before, and I commend the man, undocumented, illegal or not. It doesn't matter who reported a crime. Like, I commend him from doing that. It was brave of him to do that. It was brave of him to confront the criminal and to help hold the criminal until the police arrived. Good for him. All credit due to him there. But these anecdotes, I understand that that's liberals' opinion. That's the argument that they make in favor of sanctuary cities. But truthfully, how often does that happen? Has there been data that shows that this happens more often than criminal aliens are released from prison and not deported because local law enforcement officials aren't allowed to ask about their immigration status and then go on to commit other crimes? Do you have data that shows the frequency of illegal immigrants cooperating with police, reporting police, versus the crimes committed?
Well, as it happens, there is data on the issue more broadly. A study done at University of California, Riverside looked at so-called sanctuary cities. It compared their crime rates in the year before they became a sanctuary city and the year after they became a sanctuary city. And they compared cities that became sanctuary cities with, they matched each one up with a similar city in terms of size and demographics, etc. And here's what they found. Quote, "We find no statistically discernible difference in violent crime rate, rape, or property crime across the cities. Our findings provide evidence that sanctuary policies have no effect on crime rate despite narratives to the contrary."
I don't know what they could possibly be basing that on. No, I don't know what they could be basing that on, because the Government Accountability Office keeps track of deportations, and they keep track of illegal immigrants. They found from January through August of 2014, these are government statistics. These aren't university statistics. These aren't partisan statistics coming from one side or the other. The Government Accountability Office found that between those months of January and August of 2014, there were 8,145 undocumented illegal immigrants released from jail after the local law enforcement officials had declined federal detainer requests. Those are requests from ICE to hold the individual because they're here illegally. 1,867 of those 8,000 were later rearrested, a total of 4,298 times for $7,400 7,491 charges. 7,491 charges against these individuals who were not deported because of sanctuary city laws. I mean, I don't understand how you can look at the arrests, the crime statistics, the deportation statistics, and argue that sanctuary cities don't have an impact, a negative impact on crime.
Well, because I just gave you the data that shows that they don't. You look at a city in the year before it becomes a sanctuary city, in the year after, and across the board, the crime rates do not go up. That statistic you cited is not a comparative statistic.
How many years were they looking at that? What kind of crimes are they talking about? How many deportations took place in that city? You said that they compared that city to another city with similar population. I mean, we have to talk actual numbers here. We have actual numbers from our government that say 7,491 charges against illegal immigrants who'd been convicted before, released from prison, and not deported. There's nothing that you can say from a college in California who just tells me that there's no difference in the crime rate without the numbers.
Liz, the numbers are there. They didn't just cite one city. They cited numerous studies. I didn't bring the PDF of the full study here. You can look it up, or your audience, anybody can look it up as well. These are peer-reviewed subjects, that peer-reviewed studies where the data comes from the government. They're not making up out of thin air. They're using the same government data. And it's something that's really important about the new law in California. It does not prevent the state authorities from sharing information with the federal government when people are charged with violent crimes. There's a whole list. Every violent crime and a pretty large number of nonviolent crimes are specified as ones where the state authorities are supposed to share information with the federal authorities. So you're not talking about across the board. Even with these sanctuary cities, there is still going to be that cooperation. The larger issue is the Trump administration making sanctuary cities an issue because it's code for anti-immigration rhetoric. That's really what this is about. But the data shows that sanctuary city policies do not make cities less safe.
No,
it doesn't make cities less safe. That's what the data shows.
It certainly makes cities less safe. I don't understand how Democrats can argue otherwise. I mean, do you want to advocate then for open borders? The Government Accountability Office says that 65% of deportations in our country are due to cooperation between local law enforcement and federal immigration authorities. If you if you implement policies like sanctuary states, that cooperation is not going to happen. That means more than half of deportations are not going to happen. Democrats are supporting a policy that's going to allow illegal immigrants and illegal immigrants who commit further crimes to remain in states, to remain in our countries. At this point, should Democrats just support open borders? Because that's certainly what it sounds like.
First of all, Democrats don't support open borders. And second of all, I just mentioned to you, and I think you're mischaracterizing the California law here, it does not stop local or state authorities from cooperating with the federal government. It specifies that when people are coming to the end of their sentence for violent crimes, that they are supposed to communicate that to the federal government. So,
like Kate Steinle's murder?
A mischaracterization.
No, we've seen what happens in California.
Kate Steinle's murder,
We've seen what happens in California. You can be convicted, you can be put in jail, you can commit a violent crime, and state and local officials do not cooperate with the federal government because that is the agenda of the Democratic Party. And shame on the Democratic Party for supporting something like this when it puts people's lives at risk, when crime does increase. Ian, I always appreciate having these debates with you. Thanks for coming on the show. Our final tipping point of the night. Yesterday, I called out the Women's March for not taking to the streets in support of the Iranian women, the women who are protesting the brutal Iranian regime. Now, you'd think that would be a nonpartisan thing, right? Who doesn't support women claiming their independence? Well, what I got in response to that was hate, hate, hate. Apparently, liberals don't support women claiming their independence, and I want to show you next. We'll be right back.